It wasn't that long ago that when we bought something, we paid for it one time. How in the world did technology grab a hold of our bank accounts and extract money for the same stinking thing every single month? How is it that AI has paid us month after month after month? Instead of buying a software and having it on our computer, we have to pay a monthly software as a service fee. And this goes across the board on everything, right? It used to, things have just gotten complicated around finances. And again, the thing around technology is it's not always in our benefit. We have to demand as the market that things be done for the good of humanity. My name's Ian Utility. I'm here in Capitol Village with my son Malakye. We got Dan coming in from the Aptos Forest and Nigel from the East Coast. Ted said he can't make it today, but we're happy to rock and roll. Maybe we'll have a few less laughs. Ted's always good for the laughs.
I love getting to laugh.
It's easy to laugh when Ted's with us, but all of us are funny.
Nigel and Sweet One and my father are here, come on, that's
good. It's good news.
It's pretty easy to laugh.
Well, happy Wednesday, my friends.
Yes.
Good to be with you.
Today, weather's beautiful today. Another glorious day today. I was at the beach this morning.
Absolute most.
How was the beach?
It was a little chilly. I was down there kind of early thinking about doing an audio, but then I just didn't like what I was saying to myself. And then I got in an argument with myself, and then I lost. And then I was down there digging my toes in the sand.
I mean, it's awesome. So cool that something like a beach just like forms over time. I don't know how that happens.
Creeks, rivers, they all transform what's around them.
Sometimes when I'm just looking at the mountains from like a far view, and I notice the way that the valleys form and how they always come downwards, I just thinking about all those different things related to geology always fascinated me so much.
Geology. Definitely. Well, it keeps me fascinated here. What's happening here is so incredible in this specific part of the bay. The geology is striking and impressive in every way.
Well, Nigel's in St. Pete, dude, down over there in Tampa. He's got the Gulf of America that he gets to brag about. You know, I heard that they're gonna put a bunch of stripes across the whole Gulf. It's gonna be red and white, and then they're gonna leave the top left corner just blue. You know,
that should be interesting. But I love the beach, man. Like I can't, no matter how hard I try, I can't stay away from the beach. You know,
it's so easy to love.
You know, it's
look at behind you, Malakye. I see some sand over there. Huh?
I think I got the best camera one here. No, Sweet One, that's beautiful. But I got it. We just caught a turtle and I put him up on the wall the other day.
There you go.
He's drying out. He's drying out. I'm gonna put some.
I think our audience has a nice thing to look at today.
Yeah, it's beautiful here, and it doesn't feel cold the way Aptos does. Aptos gets the fog bank usually a bit thicker and more consistent than we have here.
Yeah. But it's all great, man. I mean, you know, being close to the water is such a fortunate blessing. I can't. Every day I wake up and just thank God for it.
So, guys, I opened up with the thought of how technology has empowered companies to extract money from their customers on a regular, call it a monthly basis, rather than the old model, which was you bought something. You know, it feels like everything is a lease. We don't own our phones. We lease our phones from Verizon or AT&T for $20 or $80 a month. We don't own our phone. Apple owns our phone, and we don't own any of the software. Everything's a lease. We own nothing. We lease everything. It ding so many ways monthly, right? It's not just the phone that I'm paying for monthly or the phone service I'm paying for monthly, but then it's the Google Suite I'm paying for. It's the Apple iCloud I'm paying for, and everything is this monthly charge. Now, some people can get away with $1.99 a month for their cloud. Me, I'm paying $150 a month on Google for 30 terabytes, which are totally full. I have to go in and erase large video files just so I can keep putting content on there. So I want to talk with you guys a bit about, as we like to cover all things tech, what do we feel about the tide turning away from the consumer toward businesses having sustainable income? Do we see a silver lining in this? Is it good because these companies can have some sustainability model, and we can kind of count on them to stay in business? Do we like the fact that we don't have to pay $300 for a software? We can pay $5 a month. Even Tesla used to sell the full self-driving for $8,000. Now they charge $99 a month. So it's going to take Tesla a long time to get the $8,000 out of me, but eventually they'll get it, right? And so instead of me paying a one-time $8,000 fee, which is an option, but instead of me choosing to do that, it's just, it's an extra $99 a month. Now it's an extra $60 a month for their service agreement. It's an extra $10 a month for internet connectivity. And so every business feels like they've leveraged technology, access to our credit cards, access to our accounts to extract money from us on a regular basis. And to me, this would be one of the things that is quite concerning. And I wonder if it's going to turn the tide and turn away from this over the course of the future. So what do you guys think about this specific topic?
I think that's interesting that you say that. And I think we've been seeing it ever since online banking. I've considered it the a la carte method. I think that I noticed it first on my cell phone bill years ago, that things started, every couple months or just whenever there's another 12 cents and it's another $1, or by the end of the year, it's another $2 more than the last year. And we have California surcharge taxes. And, if you looked at, when I started looking at my cell phone bill, I realized that it's not, cellular services, $99. It was 16 items of places I don't even know. California sure tax charge for cell phones, lithium battery charges for getting rid of it, satellite linking, all of these. So you have all of these a la carte packages that are being done, and it seems like everything's been based on subscriptions. From it seems easiest, but then I also feel like it really locks you in. Let's say something happens to a person dramatically, and you get called home to the Father, to the Lord. They got you on subscription, every single one of them, for at least 30 days, possibly whatever your family's doing, could be 60 or 90 days. So they're going to get another 3 pops out of everybody who goes to glory land right off the top. People forget to pay. There's overcharge of they'll add on some late fees, or there's fees, subscriptions, and it's all packaged up for a business model. I totally get it. If I was part of the company, I can see where that's going. Us as the consumer, was your point, man, there's got to be something else that we're doing, and I think the Web3 is going to be where it's going. When people start entering into the Web3 world of digital currency transactions, peer-to-peers, and other things, I think that's when we're going to start taking a lot of power away from conglomerates, because it's going to be much more granulated in our services. So that's why there's good opportunities for things like what we're doing, a group of 4 or 5 or 6 to come together in a link-minded type of thing and actually provide something that's a little, again, more granular, a little more personal, maybe, and a little more benevolent.
I see this coming to some point of harmony with AI and being in the mix, and hopefully more people seeing it for what it is. Mm-hmm. I get the idea of subscription, and it's all great for the, for the business,
right?
But what are that automation that's there is, they're recurring, like just put your credit card on file or whatever the case may be. As a rule, I don't put my credit card anywhere that it doesn't have to be, specifically, because I don't want, like, the idea of just money just automatically being taken out. Now I get it, it makes sense, and the way they present it. Well, if you're going on vacation, you don't want to miss. Like set it up to be an automatic payment. That's fine, but I don't know that there's enough safeguards or care put into if there's a mistake.
Yeah.
Like quick to take it out. But if there's a mistake and you need to call, it just seems like it's not that easy to get the money back. And I remember, when I first started working as a consultant, you would put your expenses in, because
right.
there was a firm that had the bigger contract, and I was contracted through them, but still, working for the company. So they would say, okay, just lay out the money and we'll reimburse you. That's a typical thing. So I had this one guy that I worked with. He was a, and I'm dating myself here, Lotus Notes developer, so whatever. There's a lot of money back in that back then. So you laugh. Anyway, but he was really good at what he did. So I remember he put some train tickets or something, or a plane, and he was like, okay, well, I need my money. And they started giving him a hard time, and he just went completely in the other direction. He was like, no problem. After that, it was like, I have no credit card. I remember they had some outage, and he was like the only one who could fix it, which was bad plan, no succession planning. But he was like, yeah, I can't, it's nothing I could do. He's like, you can send somebody here with tickets, per diem, everything. He said, because I'm just not laying out any money. I'm just not doing that. Because when I did, you gave me a hard time. And that's how I see some of the stuff playing out with the business. And I'm not saying everybody, but it was Alex Hormozy. He was talking to the guy who he's in partnership with school, and they were talking about why you need to give people back their money and don't get into these pissing contests for people, because they tend to take it too far. And he says, don't let someone turn you into their pet project. He's like, because they will go and they'll get your Stripe account banned. Now you can't do any business, that kind of thing. So my point is, like, to get back to your exact question, I think that they have been doing that, like getting the money out, and that's fine, the services and what have you. But I feel like there needs to be a better way of, getting your money back if there's a problem. That should be way more automatic. There seems to be a lot more excuses, when it's to return it versus taking it out. So that'd be the one complaint that I would have. Or
I just found out that the global scam losses exceed $1 trillion annually. $1 trillion. That's such a significant amount. I mean, think about how much is the US GDP? It's like in the 20s, 20 trillion. That's such a large amount that it feels weird that there isn't something bigger talked about it. I mean, you see people who come up with like, there's a VPN, give us more money for things like that. But why isn't it just integrated into systems in ways that are free and good? I mean, this kind of leads into a simple way of talking about the reason why Web3 is so useful, like why people actually are going down that path, because it helps with getting rid of scamming. It's all inside of your hands now, and it's not the bank teller who runs everything, but instead it's your money. And yeah, you do get the responsibility of it, but I think responsibility should be gained when you have money that is yours.
I was at a local restaurant 2 days ago, Shadowbrook, which everybody knows, and I get the bill. And Shadowbrook's a costly place. We had some friends out of town that we work with, so I was expecting I wasn't expecting to eat there for free. That's for sure. And there was a surcharge fee. I think it was 6%. It was 4 or 6%. And so I asked the waiter, because I'd never seen a 4 or 6% surcharge fee. And I said, hey, what's the surcharge fee? Because it wasn't like a tip. There were 7 of us. Sometimes they put like the automatic 18% or 15 or 20% tip on bills. When it's a large party. He goes, oh, that's so they can pay for our health insurance. I said, okay. And, I thought to myself, Shadowbrook's
that was the answer?
Yeah. Shadowbrook is one of the most successful restaurants in the world. If the data is the same today as it was a decade ago, I believe they were doing near $10 million a year. So their monthly income is, quite significant. Their daily income is quite significant. They keep employees for a long, long, long time. My friend that manages the restaurant, he started there when we were in high school. He has a ton of waiters that work there that have worked there for decades. So they aren't having a hard time keeping people. I don't see any signs that they're having a hard time in business. I called and I called at like 3 p.m. They had full reservations, no ability. We had to go eat at the bar. So they don't seem to be suffering to me. And I did find it to be strange that they added let's call it 5%, because it was 4 or 6 charge to the bill. And when I asked about it, it was to pay for the employees' health insurance. And I'm just not sure why the customers are being tasked with paying for the employees' health insurance. I would have personally preferred that they just increase their menu prices by 5%, and I deal with an increase in price, and they can take care of their employees. I found it to be strange, but it got me thinking more about this topic of how is it that we let our vendors choose to do this? How did we allow things to get away from us in this regard? And what are we expecting moving forward? Nothing's free. So,
are we letting them get away with it, or are they just doing it? Did it say, let me ask you this. Do you remember it saying surcharge, a surcharge?
Yes, it's surcharge. Yeah.
Because legally it doesn't sound like you can create a surcharge having anything to do with an employee's benefits. Your employees' benefits have nothing to do with a surcharge from a restaurant for a product or an item, they don't tie. And as soon as you said that, I'm like, wow, I'm tripping right now, because the first thing I'm thinking of is, that just up your prices on the menu. Don't even make it an issue, because I disagree with any patron or customer paying for anything personal for any employee. That's just,
it was weird, but it just got me thinking about this topic that I opened up with today. Yeah. Yes, we didn't vote for this, and the problem with our culture is no matter how bad things get, we seem to just kind of like not care. So it was announced today that Larry Ellison of Oracle, along with some partners, just bought TikTok.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. So TikTok's not going away.
What partners?
Doesn't matter. It's listed on the thing. So
it does matter.
The thing that I find fascinating is TikTok was said to be run by CCP through Singapore. Same with a lot of other software tools, the Larks of the world, any Huawei phone. And yet it doesn't seem to really matter. Like if the Huawei phone has a comparable camera and comparable this and that to an iPhone or an Android, but the Huawei phone is half as much, our culture seems to be like, I don't care how that's exposing me. I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to use this anyways. It doesn't seem to matter to us that we are having the government, at least during certain administrations, overreach and basically use our AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile providers to look at our text messages and listen to our calls. We don't seem to like respond and aggressively stop using Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or YouTube because of their weird terms and conditions, the way they're using our data to make money off of us. Obviously, nothing's free, but we use these things for free because they find other ways of making money off us. I started off with just kind of these automated paid subscriptions. Every time I sign up for a subscription on my phone, the first thing I do is cancel it. I'll sign up and I immediately cancel it so I don't pay the monthly fee every single month. I try it for a month, and if I absolutely need it, then I'll go and I'll reinstate the subscription. I sometimes will use the Apple credit card, and Apple credit card will spin up a new 16-digit number, and I'll use that new one-off 16-digit number to sign up for something so that they can't just continue to ding me over and over and over again. So I've tried to find ways to protect myself, but nevertheless, I find myself in a very strange situation where, the monthly expenses can just accelerate and get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I can't even fathom what it's like for some of these massive Fortune 500 companies. When Doge came in, Doge found that there were some crazy, crazy ongoing expenses that the government was paying for, like paying for 30,000 coffee cups to come to their office once a month. Nobody works at the office, and they're paying $5 a coffee cup. Like crazy, crazy stuff. I made that up, but there's crazy things that are that silly. And it just, whether you're a large organization or you're a average middle class, whatever that's supposed to mean, American, it does seem strange the way that everyone is constantly trying to extract money from us. We pay sales tax, we pay tourist tax, we pay income tax, we pay property tax. It's just never ending taxes and fees from the government and from institutions, and technology has made all this possible. It's AI and automation that has allowed this to basically go into motion without these companies even having to do the manual work to ensure these things happen. And so I thought it was a worthwhile conversation to have today. I just think that oftentimes I like to focus on the most positive things, and that's great. But I also think that we have to take time to think about the way that these innovations have also allowed us to become victims of a system that we don't seem to buck up against.
Are we victims though, bro? Because like I'm looking it up, and that's a law that just got passed into usage just a month ago, July of 25, that they passed a surcharge for specifically exempted from restaurants, and it's basically statewide. It's not countrywide, but specifically like where we're at, where high end restaurants are, San Francisco, LA, even in coastal communities, they're doing this. And restaurants, they are allowed to continue to add healthcare surcharges if they're clearly and conspicuously disclosed to their customers where the prices are listed. So that's why you're seeing it, and that's a law that's been put in place. So the surcharge has been adopted into law. That's why I was asking. The surcharge doesn't make no sense having anything to do with healthcare unless they've made a law. So we voted it in somewhere, or
we voted in politicians that voted it in.
However we want to, however we want to frame that. So, but interesting. I love the dude. Thank you for bringing that up, because it's having me think so much. Keep an eye. I think it's due diligence to have just keep an eye on all of your bills, unless it's not that important to you, and you can just write them off not knowingly. But I think that there's going to be shifts and moves every year. We seem to notice changes in our bills. Things get more expensive. Places get bought out. Another company buys into it, and our subscriptions even move around. And anyone who buys a company can take over that subscription, and without us knowing, they can change some of the prices of it. Especially after a buyout or something, because they haven't touched prices for a year or a month, or whatever the case may be, and so they justify the new company to do that. And then here you go again. It's another cycle of how we can be, how can we be more diligent in these costs of things that become, they're so automated now. We sign up for the automated banking, and so at the end of the month, if you're not watching these things, you're like, whoa, wow, how are my monthly bill costs are going up to 5 figures now? What's going on?
Yeah.
Is there a option like for that surcharge to say no?
I don't imagine there is.
What I just read briefly, it's a law that's been put into place, and it's what they're trying to frame it as is it's a transparency, putting it off kind of onto the customer because all customers would go, yeah, of course they should have insurance. Well, here, help us pay for it then. As part of you coming out to something that's Oh, fine dining is not orthodox. I'll just kind of throw it out there. It's kind of a level of people that are able to do fine dining. So, and I think that for the bill that's been passed or the law that's been made, they've incorporated into these places that are kind of, echelon fine dining, because it's not fast food and it's not, Chili's, Chili's eatery and, salad bars and, other places. It's been put in a place for, kind of like high-end restaurants. That's what I read. But dude, thank you for saying that. Gonna have to keep an eye on that, huh?
It's definitely strange. I mean, I imagine with people being exhausted from the tip thing that's gone on, you go into an ice cream store, they take your order, and instead of you choosing to give $1 or maybe $1 per thing, they have a suggestion for a 25% tip, and people have become exhausted with constantly being dinged with tipping in a way that we never had anticipated before, especially if you are a world traveler. In Europe, in Asia, there is no expectation for tips. It's almost strange when you tip.
I thought it was called gratuity, right? Isn't that still, even where we're at today, it's still on the paper, it says gratuity? So it's kind of like earned and it's a reward, and the meal was great and the service was great and you get more gratuity. There's a scale. It's not just, I mean, because service can vary. It gets busy in a restaurant and you didn't get the greatest service that you did at a not so heavy hour. So, I think a gratuity should be able to go like this and move around, and it's up to the customer as to how much that they would feel that they're comfortable being gratuitous about.
I just think there's going to be a pushback from the surcharge thing in restaurants. I think restaurants are going to have, instead of people tipping 20%, I see people tipping 10%, because I see people looking at that and asking their waiter, what's the surcharge for 5%? They go, oh, it's to pay for our health insurance. And I just imagine a person sitting there and going,
wow. How did that even happen like that? That's just so crazy. And then let me just throw this really quick in. Why is it not in fast food restaurants?
It might be. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
It's a gratuity thing. It just seems like it should go all across the board. If they're going to do a surcharge, it should kind of, implement kind of umbrella everybody who's in food service.
To me, it's just an example that's tangible of how things feel not in the best interest of the customer or the employee. Why? Because it was disruptive to me and the employee for me to ask about the surcharge.
What about your party, bro? How did that make you feel? When that would make me feel weird that, you have a group and you actually are even asking something like that. Just weird. A meal and engagement.
I had walked. See, the thing is, I had walked over to pay with my phone, so it wasn't in front of anybody. And I just said, "What's this?" So what I'm saying is, like, it is not in the best interest of the waiter to have to answer and field that question. That burden should not be on their shoulders. 100%. They should be focused on the relationship with them and the customer. It should not be on me as the customer to have to be like, is this a mistake? Did I misunderstand something? Is there a, and then I think it ultimately may end up hurting the employees, because I imagine if the employee would have ended up with a 20% tip, it wouldn't surprise me if the employee ends up with a 15% tip, because the customer's like, I want to be generous, but like, I don't really want to pay a 28% tip. You surcharge me 6% and I do 20% on top of that. That ends up being 28% on the bill. Like, I didn't really come here expecting to pay 28%. And so this is the type of rhythms. Now, what I recognize is that this stuff happens to us with technology all the time. We sign up for something that's $50 a month and we don't see that it's only up to this much usage. And then over this usage, you have this fee. I remember one time I had an AI tool that I was paying like $19 a month for, and I hadn't looked at the bill for a while. And next thing I know, I'm paying them like $300 a month.
Whoa.
because
Wow.
I was going over their allocated expectation and they were charging me for usage that I'd never agreed to. Here's another one that was interesting. I signed up for Brian Johnson, the Don't Die guy, his blueprint thing.
Yeah.
Having his products sent to us.
Yeah.
And we, over the year and a half, we had 28 products sent to us. Well, accidentally, their system did something and basically put all 28 of our products we had ever ordered, including like 2 and 3 of the same thing, on a subscription. And they sent me 4 boxes. I get 4 boxes. I'm like, I didn't order stuff from them. So I contact them and I go, hey, I just received 4 boxes from you guys. I just logged into my account and it says I have 28 monthly subscriptions. And some of the things are 2 and 3 of the exact same product. I didn't sign up for it. I'm happy to send it back to you. Do you know what happened? And the guy goes, I'm really sorry. We had an error in our system. I just removed the 28 subscriptions. I just refunded you. You can keep the products. So like, that's a nice end result for me. I saw something. I reached out. They did more than made it right. They were generous. And so that's fine for me, but it's not great for Blueprint. So there's an example of when things go wrong, right? Blueprint puts this automation in to allow people to save 5 or 10% on subscriptions. Accidentally, something goes on. What if that happened across their entire database? It's like these are the types of moments where technology doesn't always just work in our best interest when we get too hands off and we allow things to just go through these innovation cycles of automation. I'll pause for a moment, Nigel. What are your thoughts on this stuff?
I want to hear what Nigel's to say.
I think that some of this stuff could be accidental, but some of it is accidentally on purpose. I've heard in my time, coming up in that whole online craze you ever heard of something called a hell room?
I don't think so.
Okay. So I'm in one of these mastermind calls and, they're talking about how the subscription ordering, they would have people to field in a room to field angry customers. Like they would oversend them stuff and there's nothing we could do. It kind of they'll go through the motions. But what they were finding is that the statistics showed that they would make an extra 40 or 50% or whatever the case may be. Some people would argue their way through to get their money back, but others would be like, I'll just forget it. I'll pay for it, and they'll keep an extra month or 2 or whatever the case may be. I'm not saying everybody's nefarious, but this is an actual thing that, that I was listening to and they were expressing. And there's other things. I mean, it's just there's so much information available. There's so much insights that can be gathered from data that we're not looking at. And I think the answer, as much as we talk about this, I don't think, first of all, I don't think we can say it enough. And 2, I don't think we're driving the point home. The value of Web3 and blockchain is not selective accountability. It's fully transparent accountability. So it's this: do whatever you want, but know that it's out there and someone can find it. So if it impedes on somebody, understand it, it has a long shelf life. We won't forget and we'll deal with it, because I think that's going to deter particular behavior. Because again, and I can't say this enough either, it's not about being punitive. It's about discouraging that type of behavior to begin with. And this way we open up our minds and use the AI to find more constructive and mutually beneficial ways for everybody to win. I don't think it's that way now. You have a lot of confusing material that if you laid it out transparently, I think sales would immediately drop off. Like that AI product you mentioned, $19 a month, but the typical bill is $300. When you see that, and here's why. It should be conspicuously obvious. Again, like the Philip Morris, on the cigarettes, you could die, that kind of thing. But that's not going to be a popular response because it's designed that way. Why?
But I don't think people care about the warnings. Okay, so I've done a lot of travel, to Asia and Europe. In places like South Korea or places like Germany, in these types of places, a large majority of people smoke cigarettes. Like a massive number of people. And they don't just smoke the vape pens, they smoke the good old-fashioned real tobacco cigarette. On the pack, it's like a massive portion of the pack shows like black lungs. And it's like, this is going to kill you. It doesn't seem to matter. People still pick it up. They still buy the cigarettes. They still smoke them. Even sin taxes don't seem to make a difference. You go to New York and it's like, I don't know, $17 for a pack of cigarettes, and that might shock a Midwest person. Maybe a Midwest person might roll in and be like, whoa, I'm going to be taking a break from smoking today because I didn't bring my cigarettes and I ain't paying $18 for a pack, because there's all these extra taxes. And it doesn't seem like the sin tax doesn't make a difference. The warning you're going to die doesn't seem to make a difference. Like we can be told 1,000 ways that this is a dangerous device, that we're being listened to, that you can it's been said that you can turn your phone off, power it off, and it still is going to be connected to the internet. And they still have the cameras and the audio capable of being able to listen to you. So, but it's like you hear that and you go, whatever. I got nothing to hide. That's always been my thing. I got nothing to hide. Who cares? The issue to me is these innovations and automations, when used as a way to benefit the government or benefit the biggest institutions, and ultimately it brings harm to the customer, and then the customer gets pissed off, contacts the government or contacts the institution or blames a CEO or blames a congressperson or a senator or a governor or a mayor. And then it really kind of goes to the middle manager person that ends up taking the heat and trying to calm the person down. And like all of this energy goes on, all in the sake of like increasing profits, setting things in motion that is quote unquote good for us, the big company. And I'm not so sure it is. It does feel like a lot of this stuff is short-sighted. Yet I have friends like, really push on me. Ian, why do you still use an iPhone? Why do you still use a MacBook? Why do you still use an iPad? Dude, get a jailbroken Android. Like, just get something that protects you and your family. Get your kids off of those Apple products, or get your family or your company off of those Samsung or those Google products. Get off of that stuff. That stuff is hurting you. It's causing you pain. Or so you might say, why do you still look at your phone in color? Put your phone in grayscale mode. When you put your phone in grayscale mode, then you won't like feel such a desire to look at it all the time. You won't find yourself doom scrolling all the time. You won't find yourself, constantly enamored with your phone if it's just in black and white. It changes the psychology. And I put it in black and white for a day or maybe for several days. And I go, it just doesn't, I don't like it. So I go back to, it's like, well, pie and pizza is not good for you, but I like it. I like it. I don't like being soft. I want to be lean and hard, but I really like pizza and pie. And even though it's poison, and even though the wheat that's being used is the worst possible form of that wheat, and the cheese being used is the worst possible form of dairy being, and the tomato sauce being used is the most highly processed, sugar infused stuff, and the meat is nasty, bad for you meat. And I know that's what's in the pizza. I know it, and I feel terrible afterwards. It gives me indigestion, or I feel slow, or I can't think straight. I still like the way it tastes. So we have a problem where we can't seem to make decisions based on what's best for us, nor do we have governments and institutions that seem to be trying to help us make better decisions as well. And even the ways that they do it, like sin tax, by taxing things crazy, doesn't seem to make an impact. I do wonder, like, is RFK Jr. going to have an impact with what he's doing with the health side of things? Like, is it really actually going to make a difference? Can he actually do things that will hold organizations accountable? Yeah. When will Web3 actually be in place to where corporations will have to have a reckoning for the impact they make on the environment, for the impact they make upon humanity? And so I do wonder what's to come, but these conversations about Web3 and AI being used to hold big governments and corporations accountable has been said for at least 10 years. And we're still here kind of like just going down the valley into a more challenging situation for individuals. So,
but I'm not seeing it. I think there's still, I definitely think there's still a way, and because I'm not suggesting that all the stuff with taxes and, labels, I agree with you 100%. What I am saying is, if you make it so that the evidence is there, the behavior, well, because if the stuff that you're doing, from an evidence perspective, is just being piled up on a blockchain that's immutable, it's a matter of time. You're not going to be doing something that's going to have you staring down the barrel of a RICO for the sake of profit. You're never going to be able to spend that money. And the way the world works, everybody's trying to make a buck. The lawyers are never going to leave that alone. They can't wait for that to happen, because I've said this a few times, and I'm waiting to see if it'll come to pass, and I think it will. We're going to see something that's going to be so outlandish because of AI that we're going to never think it's possible. Up to now, you'll have people say, 50 count indictment, 20,000, 100 count indictment. You're going to see something like a 9,000 count indictment because the data is going to be there.
Right.
And
so
this
is the promise of accountability that people feel like is coming. I'll share my personal fantasy of what I am hoping is in the works with Pam Bondi, our Attorney General, and the FBI under Cash and Dan and their teams, and anybody else involved in the DOJ. My hope, my fantasy, is that they've spent the last 9 or so months building massive cases against all of the bad politicians and organizations. And then rather than go after this Democrat and this Republican and this nonprofit organization one at a time, they're going to drop these cases publicly on 100 Republicans, 100 Democrats, and 75 nonprofits all at once. 275 cases all at once, rock solid cases. And my thought would be, if they do it this way and they don't do the one-offs, nobody can protect each other. So if all these nonprofits and all these bot politicians are part of the deep state, and they are all basically doing the bidding of folks like the pharma companies that are funding them, and they're doing the bidding of people that don't have our country's best interest in mind, then the question is, what if we dropped all these cases at once? They can't all protect each other. They can't all cover for each other because they're scrambling for themselves, for them not to deal with the consequences. And I have this fantasy that that's what's to come. And in the same way, I have this fantasy for American politics, which anybody listening to us talk in Europe or Asia, they don't care about what I just said. But what they might care about is what happens if all of the biggest companies, the Microsofts, the Googles, the NVIDIAs, and I'm not saying that any of those three companies are like, I'm not saying anything about those three companies specifically. I'm just saying, what if all those companies are held accountable for just the environmental impact they've made? Because right now, they might do something that causes $100 million of damage, and they get a $2 million fine. They go, good with me. They might do something that causes $50 billion of damage over the course of 35 years. And at some point, it's going to be dropped on them like, this is a $50 billion damage over 35 years. We're holding you accountable for that. You now are going to go bankrupt. We're bankrupting your company because of what you've just done. And so there's been this fantasy about like the distributed ledgers holding governments, institutions, and those that pull the strings of these organizations accountable. And the thought is like, well, at some point it'll all come at the same time. AI will make it possible to hold everybody accountable at one time. I don't know if that's true. It feels like a fun little fantasy, more of like a conspiracy theory fantasy than anything else. Go ahead, Nigel.
I would like to, instead of cases, and as much as I can appreciate why that would be a way to go, I would prefer a metric. I think if every politician, every deal, and every person involved had a metric, and when you click on the metric, QR code or whatever, you just click on it and it tells you, oh, 30 out of 100. Click here to find out why. And then with AI being AI, it can explain it. Explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old. Explain it to me like I'm a 7th grader. And now you start to understand what's going on. I feel the problem starts to correct itself. It's not as punitive. It's a lot of man hours on the other one. This way, I feel like you get to make, a more informed, because once you click that button and you're like, wait a minute, this dude took $50 million to open prisons and he's a judge, criminal. How many people he put in, do the numbers, do the math. Oh, no. Net good, bad. Net good score, -10. Okay, well, I know what I need to know now, So it's either like the prosecution, sure, I get it, law and order and all that. But like the idea is you need to either change that behavior or leave. Focus on net good, and make it so that you can beef up your score. Pour some good on that. You could go from a net -10 to, a 50 or whatever. But how do you do that? But there's no path. There just seems to be like, I'm going to call in a chit. You owe me. You vote on my bill. This is nonsense, but I'm going to vote on it because I owe you from the last one. Like, it's just, I don't know how that's going to work.
We're getting ready for a voting reform, dude. It has to be, because we have the digital technology there now. Yes. There's no reason why it shouldn't be there, why we have to have mail-in ballots. And for those that need them, you can have them as an option off on the side or something, but the majority needs to be done kind of like what we're doing right now.
I mean,
let's pick the library is going to be the place that operates for the voting facility for you to come down. Library needs to have a stream that's open, multiple streams for as many people, just like what we're doing. That can have as many people as pop into that day for 5 minutes while they're there. They can see other people voting at the same time. If you want to talk, you talk, you unmute. Hi, how you get whatever, or you don't. You go in there to vote. But all that being done digitally, putting it up on the block, like we talk about so much, the immutability of something, really hard to tamper with something. If someone decides to make a decision and push that vote, that's it. There is no, are you sure? Let's do a recount. Let's change this. And very efficient and very quickly. So I see why not? I mean, within the next year. I was thinking by the end of the year, and we've talked about it in our 60 or so episodes, discussions of some type of politics and operating a Web3 established platform for a new votership that's so nonsensist for us. Nigel had mentioned something, if you put a $sign next to the voting participant or the candidate of said bill or said position, it really puts their face and name, their policy, their whole background, everything on a kind of up in a window saying, yeah, here's what they're standing behind. They're for farmers and not for beach cleanup, or they're this and right there as you're voting, instead of, because I'm confused with the voting still today. What are we doing with paper ballots and still going to the library and to the local church and all of that type of thing? Let's get it on the blockchain and don't get rid of anything still, but do it as a what do you want to say, test case, or do it as a hybrid system just to see how many people start adopting into it? think it's a great idea. We need to move that way.
I mean, in my mind, think about it. If you actually just had in this next election in 2028, or maybe even sooner, but probably 2028,
our senators for 26 next year, we have a big senator.
Right.
If we completely change that, no, there's nowhere in person, it's all Web3, then bam, the problem is completely solved right there. Everybody who wants to vote and is going to do that goes and gets a digital wallet. And if you can't do it on your own device, you can go to the library and do it and sign in there. Like there, whole entire problem solved. And that brings really not many problems with it. Of course, some people don't like it because it's new, and that's just a part of being human. But
well, you leave it hybrid. You leave it open to people to come in as they see fit. It doesn't close off until, and the old system, I don't think ever should really close off. You just have to go. It makes it more difficult for them. Do you need a mail-in ballot, or you want to go down to then you need to fill out a form, send a stamp, do it in a postage, and it's this roundabout. And if people want to do that, then they have the option to do that. So there's still accountability for everyone. It doesn't lock people out, and that adoption process will slowly build quickly. I think what I see is younger generations doing immediate digital, and then their parents, their friends, and their elders from there jumping right onto the bandwagon by saying, "Mom, Dad, what here's how you do it. Give me your phone, bop, 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 and here you go, and you're done." So I see that and the Web3 adoption will be helping us as individuals also by putting it into a government standard that will have people I don't want to say forcibly, but almost mandatorily engage into a Web3 platform, because you're talking about politics with it. You're talking about voting. Something simple like voting. You're not changing laws. You're just doing a voting process, which seems to be much more sufficient, much more transparent, much more open.
Right.
So there's a lot of ways that these ideas that we're talking about can seem like things where it's like, dude, duh. Like that is so obviously going to happen in the future, because look how good it is. Why would you not want a money sign or a 0 out of 100, maybe even go negative if they did a net negative rating on the politicians there or on the judge? Like that is such a good idea. But then
it is
always come after that sometimes can make it more difficult for people to want to pursue something that is change and is going to be hard. Like one of the first thoughts that I have when I hear that idea of put a money sign next to this or put a 0 out of 100 rating is, who are you going to trust to have the AI that does that? I mean, OpenAI, Google, Grok, Claude, they all work with government now. They have a set thing that is meant to be just for government. And it's like, sure, that's a good idea on paper, but now they're obligated in a sense.
I think it's good for our officials too. You guys are really good looking. You come from a very educated, well put together background, whatever the case may be. You should not be afraid to have your face and what you stand behind in a QR code next to your face. Yeah. The dollar sign that we're talking about is the QR code, which opens up everything that they stand behind. You can go in deep into a rabbit hole as you want. After all, they are elected officials. Everything that they do at all times of the day that they're working for us should be a documented program. It should be something that we can, if we want to, we should be able to tap right into who they are. After all, we elected them. We put them in. So it's not a oversight campaign we're trying to create. Put the transparency in there, and then with it being there, we shouldn't have to, it's not like we need to be too much on it. It's there if we need to go. It creates accountability in a heartbeat.
Well, check this out. I thought about this a little as you guys were speaking. You raised another point. How many documents we go through that says read, like you would have a EULA agreement or whatever the case may be, and if you don't scroll all the way like anybody's really reading that, right? Okay, so follow the logic. We go in the booth, we vote the party line. We have all this AI.
You don't get to vote until you scroll all the way through all the
No. Even better. We have all this AI. You're all in with the government, right? Great. So here's what you do. You can't vote until you click the damn button to know what the candidate does. You can't. vote until you actually, and as far as Malakye, your question was a great one. Who do you get to do it? I say all of them. But the only data that's in there is what they all agree on.
They have that. Yeah. That's what the bots are doing in our AI
because,
now.
You know, yeah, but you see, the thing is, here's the thing. If anybody could put anything in there, you can put wildly outlandish stuff. You can put lies. It doesn't matter. Only what every AI agrees on is what the people see. If there's not uniform agreement, it ain't even there. And now you have to listen to whatever the AI spins up, doing a little podcast or whatever. Here's your candidate. Here's the things that we know they've done. And here's the number that came up based on a formula. But this is the average of every AI came up. Net 700, negative 700 net good, this dude. So vote for him if you want.
Would have been positive. Can I
propose? Or either one. Yeah.
I think that I kind of propose that little idea of, well, who are you going to trust? But that immediately makes me think of, that's obviously a difficult question to tackle. But how do we know that that could ever even get to be something that happens? Because to vote on something like making it so you have to scroll down and look at all the things about the politicians before you vote for them, people could say that's hindering people from voting, which is a fair point, but still it's obviously a net good. And so that's just one of the examples of why politicians might say, no, we can't do this because of this. And so if the way we get these things to happen, the way that we change voting is by politicians doing it, in my mind, that's just never going to happen. And so how are we actually going to get these changes to happen? Do we have to have some kind of major reform where people just get angry? Or are we going to have something else? Just educate that thought for me.
It could be that, but I think their very voting or not wanting to do that would be another metric. Like again, the blockchain is amazing in that the immutable part, and how people vote is how they vote. If you don't want something to happen, there must be a reason. And we have enough processing power with all this energy we're expending to figure that out. There's going to be a pattern there. This person always is voting for it's too difficult. Well, dude, if everything's too difficult, then maybe I gotta we're never gonna get anything done. So I don't know if I really want you to do what it is. So that kind of thing.
Yeah. You know, tomorrow's gonna be an interesting day. We'll do our show live from the Crypto AI Expo in Mountain View. And I am doing a half-hour keynote there at 4 p.m., closing the first day out. And my keynote is called they titled it for me. Hold on. Will decentralized AI create a universal maximum income? So this is based off of my talk I closed out NFT NYC with. So I'll broadcast that. I'll broadcast our time together from there. And what's crazy is my panelists. So after my half-hour talk, I'll have a panel for 20 minutes. And one person on my panel is a good friend of mine named Nicholas Koo. Nicholas Koo is a global venture capitalist. Usually he is deploying capital from multiple 9-figure funds at the same time. He's come here a couple of times to spend time with us here in California. So I think, Dan, you've met him. And, you know, Nicholas is unique in that he goes to all the major global political events. So Cheese Team will invite him to their version of WEF. He'll go to World Economic Forum. He'll go to the National Prayer Breakfast. Like, he'll go to everything, and he's a part of all of it. So he'll be part of the panel. But the other person is Fiona Ma. Fiona is the controller, the CPA, that runs the $3.5 trillion California economy. She's also running for lieutenant governor in California from 2026. And so some of the things that we're talking about regarding politicians, as I lay out my vision for how AI, specifically decentralized AI, can help humanity, it'll be fun to see how she responds to that. Because her thing was like, this is not really my field of expertise. Are you sure you want me on this panel? I'm like, oh, yeah. I really want you to sit with me and Nick and share a conversation. We'll have Riza do the moderation of that. So that should be a fun time. so for the two of you, if you guys want to take a look at Fiona Ma, let me know if you have any specific questions that Riza might want to consider asking during our panel. Well, we're at the top of the hour. I see that clock about to tick 1 hour. I like to keep it to an hour. So for all of you out there in internet land, thank you for your attention. We will be back again tomorrow at the same time, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, from the Expo, the Crypto AI Expo. Dan, Nigel, Malakye, thank you for joining me once again.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Bye.
See you.
See you tomorrow.